Now, answering your questions about the law and legal issues. This is Legal Break.
Maureen Akers here today with Gary. Gary, thanks so much for joining us again.
Good to be here again. Thank you.
Yes, we're talking about legal issues and topics that are out there as, I guess, topic of conversation or in the news. And this one involves property damage. So say someone has a case that involves property damage,
Right.
and there's possibly some bodily injury. How should that be handled, or how should those cases be handled?
Well, good question, because any wreck will involve property damage. I mean, that's kind of what it's about.
Right.
Now, whether you're hurt or not is another question. But they're two different cases. So if your car's damaged or your truck's damaged or something's damaged in your home, you can have that paid for and not rush to make a decision about whether you're injured, because it doesn't always show up immediately.
Right.
I mean, we know it's easy when somebody's drug out to the hospital and we know that there's some injury there, but sometimes things linger or compound or aggravate another condition, and so we're not always able to define those exactly at that time. But the law says you have two cases. One's for your car and one's for your bodily injury. And there's two statute of limitations for that.
Wow.
The car, you actually have 4 years to make a claim for property. So if somebody runs over your fence, you've got 4 years to get that worked out and sue them, you know. And if they run over you, you only have 2 years. And maybe less depending on circumstances, depending on who's involved, so don't take that as the absolute truth. But generally, they're two different cases, so they don't need to be mixed together.
Yeah. Well, now let's bring up the topic too of pain and suffering as it relates to all this. Can you get pain and suffering for property in conjunction with property damage?
Good question, and it comes up when I see it is like dealing with pets.
Yeah.
Somebody's run over your pet, you
Yeah.
know? So do you have pain and suffering for that?
Right.
The answer is no. And you would think maybe you would, but you don't in Georgia. It's property. So what is the value of your pet? What is the value of your property? That's the measure of damages there. Pain and suffering is a whole different deal, and valuing pain and suffering it involves not just ouch, it hurts, because if it hurts me to raise my arm over my head, I don't raise my arm over my head.
Right.
But I have limitations on what I do. There's a list of, it's really about the interference with your life. How does your life change? What limitations do you have? What fears do you have? What daily problems do you have? How does it compound your ability or your identity? If I lose my ability to practice law, it's not just about money, it's about who I am and what I enjoy and how I present myself. And we all have those kind of deals. So pain and suffering is a whole lot more nebulous and difficult to define.
There's a lot involved there. So.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Gary, on that question, and we look forward to seeing you on the very next Legal Break.